So excited, everybody. Welcome to Monday night. I still can't get my head around that. Monday night training. It is the 24th of September. Just think, in 3 months' time, it's Christmas Eve. Like 2018, amazing. It's like a super cleansing year. Somebody said to me, or our PA Lisa said, it's all about cleansing. And I think she's right. It's about flushing the old and getting prepared for the new, which is really exciting. So I am so honored, humbled and proud to introduce our first trainer, guest speaker of tonight, our very own in the house, Dr. Julie Fisher-Smith. And Julie and I, we've met, well, I've been up and launched her up in Liverpool, so she's up there, and three gorgeous girls. And I know that Julie is absolutely endorses our product. She is. I walked into a kitchen, oh my gosh, like literally breathing, living the 30 days. I had to go out and buy a bottle of wine because it was for a launch, because I'm like, I just need some wine. But Julie, like everything she has got, like, I've never seen a fridge like completely healthy. So I know that your girls as well, you know, like you totally, you know, you started doing some Instagram and some stories with your kids, and they just love it. So I'm going to hand over to you, Julie, and thank you for your expert opinion. I'm so looking forward to hearing your training, my lovely.
Oh, thank you for asking me to train. So I thought what I'll do is I'll start with a brief introduction of me. Then I want to tell you my key areas of the 30 days. So rather than going through the 30 days, there's just some key takeaways that I think are really important. I also want to touch on autoimmune disease and how Arbonne can be a part of that. I just very briefly want to mention pregnancy because that I think that deserves a key mention. And finally, I want to actually relay a message from Dr. Matravers about organic products, because obviously as part of our 30 days we endorse you using organic fruit and vegetables, when in actual fact we're not an organic company. I want to explain exactly why that is. So a really brief introduction about me. So I graduated as a doctor back in 2004. I spent my first year just doing general training, and then from 2005 until 18 months ago, and actually stopped my clinical practice, I've worked in women's health. And so I've got a passion for medicine for women, and particularly during pregnancy. And I think that's why I really feel quite strongly that we need to make sure that we're given the right advice and safe advice of pregnant women. So starting off with the 30 days. So ideally, everybody needs to be using ASVP. But the reality is that people can't always afford that. So what I want to share with you is the key areas that I think that everybody needs. So the areas that I've identified are the protein or meal replacement, digestion plus, omega-3, and more recently the cleanse. And I've just thought of something there. Okay, so basically the 30 days is an elimination plan. So if you imagine that we live in a really toxic environment, we've got environmental toxins in our diet, we've got all sorts of contaminants within the food chain, not just the dairy industry, the meat industry, even the fisheries. You know, there's all sorts of pesticides, fertilizers, and antibiotics being used routinely to increase yield, to increase profit margin. That's all it's about. But of course, we're at the top of the food chain, and so we're ingesting all these toxins. So the idea of the 30 days is that we stop the tap. It's literally like turn the tap off of all these toxins that we're ingesting every single day. We then need to support our body to eliminate the toxins that we've accumulated. Now, by definition, if you're carrying extra weight, you are toxic, because our body actually protects itself by putting toxins within fat cells to actually keep them away from our vital organs. So anybody who's overweight is toxic by definition. And our bodies are amazing at eliminating the toxins. But if you imagine, you know, we've got a liver, we've got 2 kidneys, and then the largest organ in our body is actually the skin. And they're just three main organs that we use to eliminate waste and to eliminate toxins. But they're completely overwhelmed. And so with Arbonne products, once we've stopped the tap, we've then got an opportunity to actually support our body in doing what it's designed to do, which is eliminate all the toxins in order to support us. And of course, the third part of it is to reset our lifestyle. So to relearn how we should be eating and how we should be living to make sure that we don't go back to that toxic environment. So the protein is amazing. Now, there's one point I want to make about this. The protein and the meal replacement can both be used. If you've got somebody who, say somebody like myself, so for example, I use the protein and it's a family thing. So the girls choose what frozen fruit they're going to add without them knowing. They get a portion of kale thrown in when they're not looking, probably half an avocado and maybe a few chia seeds, so I add to it. And so that then becomes a meal with lots of, additional fresh food. If you've got somebody who just needs to literally shake and go, then the protein isn't enough. They need a meal replacement. And so you need to make that differentiation with your clients, really. The other thing I just wanted to touch on is your basal metabolic rate. Now, there's a certain number of calories that we all need to have just for the essential processes. So we are going to expend energy every moment of our lives just through breathing, our heart beating, our brain working, and our gut working. So that is your basal metabolic rate. There are calculators that you can get online to work it out. As a guide, mine's about 1500. So just to survive without moving, I need 1500 calories. Now, all these lose weight quick types of shakes that we've all heard of and many of us have tried, all work by dropping your calorie intake below your basal metabolic rate. And that's a dangerous place to be because your body goes into starvation mode. And so you don't lose weight because your body grabs hold of all the fat. It's like, whoa, hang on a minute, we don't know where the next meal's coming from. We can't let this go. And that is the opposite to what Arbonne does. Because with Arbonne, the idea is it's clearing the toxins. And once the toxins aren't there, the fat is no longer required because that protective mechanism is no longer needed. So you want to make sure that your clients are above their basal metabolic rate. Now, our protein shakes are actually quite low. So unless you're adding a lot of things to it, or you're adding a lot of healthy snacks, whether it be nuts or like green apples, green vegetables, or what have you, you've got to be careful that you're not dropping your client too low. So if you're in any doubt, and particularly if people have got a lot of weight to lose, I would actually default to the meal replacement for that reason, to make sure that the calories above anything else are actually not going into the danger zone. And then obviously with a healthy meal and with healthy snacks, you then want to make sure that they're not having excess calories in the diet, and that is then the way that they lose weight. And then obviously adding exercise in where possible as well. So that was just the point about the protein. The second is a Digestion Plus. Now, in my opinion, I think every single person, be it adult or child, should be taking Digestion Plus. This for me is key. And the reason is that we are made up of more bacteria than human cells, which is quite a disturbing thought. We're actually 10% human. So for every human cell, there are 10 more bacteria in our bodies. So we're actually made up of a microbiome. So we think about our guts as just like this, amazing organ or set of organs that takes food in, gets rid of all the rubbish, and absorbs all the nutrients. But it's much more than that. Now, the bacteria that we have in our body is actually under symbiotic relationship, which is basically mutual benefit. So we provide shelter and food for the bacteria, and they provide essential processes to us, many of them. So they're involved in digestion, they're even involved in hormone synthesis. So imagine serotonin, which is basically our feel-good hormone. 70% of that is actually produced in our gut. We don't produce it, the bacteria produce it. So if that's not working right, then of course our mood is affected. And they also have a protective mechanism on our gut lining. Now, as we mentioned before, we're in this toxic environment. There's antibiotics everywhere. Now, I'm not just talking about the antibiotics you're given for an infection, and rightly so. I'm talking about the bacteria in the water supply, because the fisheries industry just gives antibiotics to the fish, just prophylactically, just in case. The dairy industry are pumped with antibiotics to try and counteract the chronic mastitis that the cows have. The veterinary industry is not as regulated as medicine, so the amount of antibiotics that are used are literally off the scale. Not only that, if you think about all the marketing, everything is geared towards us living in this clean environment. So if you go to the supermarket and you're trying to find a way to clean your clothes or clean your hands, clean your working surfaces, everything's marked as 99.9% of bacteria killed. Well, no, we're killing ourselves. We need that bacteria. So we're living in this ultra clean environment, and the consequences of that are the good bacteria can't do their job because they've been stripped away, and then the bacteria that are actually bad are then causing an overgrowth, and so there's that complete imbalance, which then means that our guts are no longer working properly. So digestion plus is required every single day, and I say digestion plus with emphasis there because there is nothing else in the market that comes close to digestion plus in redressing the balance in our microbiome. And I'll explain that in a moment. But the key here is that you have to replace it every single day, because obviously we eliminate a lot of bacteria every day, and also we're exposed to new bacteria and new toxins every single day. So it's got to be daily replacement of it, and particularly with children, because they are living in a more toxic environment than we were when we were children. So why is our digestion plus so superior? Well, there are multiple reasons. For the bacteria to have a positive impact where it needs to be, there's lots of barriers that it needs to get through. Now, our stomach is actually designed as basically a pool of strong acids. So if you think about a baby crawling on the floor, they put everything in the mouth, all sorts, whatever you've trod on the way on outside, whatever it is, goes straight in the mouth. And it's a survival mechanism. Whatever goes in your mouth has to go through your stomach, which is strong hydrochloric acid, to actually kill things that could kill us in essence. Now, if you've got bacteria that is having to sit in a fridge in order for it to survive, then that is then not going to survive. Firstly, the heat of your body, and secondly, the hydrochloric acid in your stomach. It's not stable enough. It's not going to get past the stomach into your bowel where it's needed. Add to that, most of those drinks that I'm alluding to are also within a cocktail of dairy and sugar, which are two of the main pro-inflammatory foods. So in actual fact, what is the point? Because we're trying to protect our gut, and all you're doing is adding more dairy and sugar, which is by definition damaging to your gut. So you need to have your bacteria in a form which is stable at room temperature. And there are various tablets and sachets and whatnot out there. But again, even in that form, it doesn't come close to our Bond's Digestion Plus. And let me explain why. So although we don't obviously advocate animal testing, obviously within the drug industry, animal testing is the preferred initial mode of investigation. And I say that for a reason, because a study was done fairly recently on rats, and they looked at rats and they were looking at the size of the rat and the behaviour, and they actually separated two sets of identical rats. And what they did was they actually stripped the bacteria out of the rat's gut and replaced it with bad bacteria, which is in essence what is happening to us on a daily basis. The results that they had was surprising. The first is the rats that had been affected by a change in bacteria became obese in a very short space of time. So although they had the same food available, they became obese. The second thing, which was most disturbing, is it altered the rat's mood. And in effect, the rats became depressed. Now, the interesting thing to note here is not only was there that initial change, but it was also reversible once they replaced the bacteria that the rats were missing. So once they put the good bacteria back, the rats lost the weight and they resumed normal behaviour consistent with a normal mood of a rat. The bacteria that was found to be most effective in doing that is Bacillus coagulans. Now, how amazing is Arbon? Because our Digestion Plus is Bacillus coagulans. So to talk about being a step ahead, we're like 100 steps ahead here, okay? So the other thing about Bacillus coagulans, not just in its effect itself, but the way it's actually used in Arbon is it's in spore form. Now, when bacteria is active, it's constantly dividing and is obviously it can be affected by the environment. When bacteria in spore form, they are in their most stable form. Now, bacteria have survived for millennia, and if there's ever a nuclear fallout, it'll probably be bacteria that survive, but not all bacteria. It'll be the bacteria that are in this spore form. And Digestion Plus, here we go again, is in its spore form. It's the most stable way of bacteria surviving. And that is why it can be it can survive a sachet, to have in your handbag, wherever you're going to go in the world. It survives room temperature. It's going to survive the acid in your stomach, and it's going to survive your body temperature. And it is going to become active when it hits the small bowel, which is exactly where we want it to work. The other part that I wanted just to mention is a lot of manufacturers sort of describe of how many bacteria per million there are in a culture. And some have like ridiculous amounts, absolutely ridiculous. And of course, as a society, that we're led to believe that the more that there are, the better it is. But the thing that you need to make a distinction with here is that the figures that they're quoting are the bacteria per million culture is at the time of manufacture, not at the time of use. So there could be however many trillion bacteria in the factory, but by the time it survives its shelf life or its fridge life, by the time that you take it and your stomach works its magic, the amount of bacteria that are actually active is going to be a small fraction of what it was at manufacture. Going back to what we've mentioned about Digestion Plus being in its spore form, there's the guarantee that when it's sat in the Arbon factory is the same as when it's going to be in your stomach, because of all those reasons that we've mentioned. So I cannot stress enough the importance of Digestion Plus. I give it to my children. I give my children half a sachet, but I can't see any reason why it would cause any harm if they have more than that, and that is something that they have every single day. So the third part I want to mention is omega-3. Now, omega-3 is a really important component of our diet. It's implicated in heart disease, in brain disease. We need it to learn. We need it for our memory. It is absolutely, it's absolutely key. And of course, people used to have fish oil. And of course, it's recommended that people have 1 to 2 portions of oily fish each day. The problem is that the fish industry is different to the way it used to be. And so most of the fish that we have is farmed, which is then party to all those toxins that I've just been talking about. But then they end up concentrated within this fish oil, because of course it's only the oil that is then fractioned off into the capsules. Not only that, is farmed salmon has got a much smaller, like a tiny fraction of omega-3 rather than unfarmed fish. So even if people have got fish in their diet, they're probably not getting the omega-3 that they need. Now, special mention here to people who've got a vegan diet. So there's 2 types of omega-3. There's your ALA and there's your DHA. Now, your ALA is quite easy to get even on a vegan diet. Things like flax seeds and chia seeds are quite high in ALA, but it's really hard to get DHA. And in most health food shops, they have omega-3 supplements, but they're an incomplete omega-3 because they're missing DHA. DHA is found in seaweed. And of course, you know, it takes no introduction that our omega-3 is the perfect mix of ALA and DHA suitable for a vegan diet. So again, everybody should be having them, and particularly children, because their brains developing at a rate that your brain never develops in adulthood compared to childhood. And the final thing I want to mention on the 30 days is the cleanse. So remember I said before that you need to turn the tap off to stop the toxins going into your body, but then we need to support our completely overwhelmed system to get rid of it. And the cleanse is the best way of doing that, in my experience. It's a gentle way of supporting the liver, of supporting kidneys, and of actually eliminating that toxic sludge that is just sat releasing toxins into our body all the time. And so that's why that is key as a part of the 30 days in actually resetting, resetting that. And of course, it wouldn't be complete without adding water in copious amounts. The recommendation is 8 glasses of water per day, obviously factoring in the level of activity or your ambient temperature. Personally, I think that is a massive underestimate of the amount of water that we need. And I will pass on, there's a website that you can actually direct your clients to go and estimate how much water they should be having depending on their level of activity and their age and their weight. And I think most people get a shock that we're probably not taking enough water, and water is the way that we eliminate everything. So that is really important. So that's all I want to say on the 30 days. I'll move on now briefly because I could just talk about this all night. So autoimmune disease. Now I want to actually give you an example because I think autoimmune disease is quite misunderstood amongst doctors alike because it's not fully understood. But it's basically the body attacking itself. And I want to give you a very personal example of how the autoimmune picture can develop. So I'm going to give the picture of me back in 2004. So I was a young 20-something medical student, and I was fit. I mean, fit as in exercise every single day, either gym, running, swimming, sauna every day, all before going to university. I ate healthy, yes, I partied, but I made up for it with my diet. I was fit. I graduated in 2004, and then just what the doctor didn't order is actually a doctor's life. And so I was working on paper 40 hours, in practice probably close to 70, in an incredibly stressful environment due to all the issues that the NHS has got. Plus, as a new doctor, you live for 24 hours a day worrying that you have in some way contributed to people's deaths. I mean, that is your ultimate fear. So your stress levels are off the scale. Add into that, you're exhausted, and so you live on a diet of caffeine, which of course has got copious amounts of dairy products added to it. And you don't even get into the hospital canteen because the times when you are able to get a break, it's closed. And so you live out of a vending machine. And my diet for those 2 years was coffee, dairy, sugar, and gluten, with various amounts of trans fats that were associated with the food that I was eating. And I use the term food in its loosest terms. Within 2 years, I was sick. I mean, like really sick. I used to put my key in the front door, and it took me all my energy to get on the sofa, where I then slept for 2 hours before I could even summon enough energy to go and make a meal before going back to bed to do it all again the following day. And that was my life. That was my life as a junior doctor. Very shortly afterwards, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease as an underactive thyroid. Now, over the last 50 years, the amount of people that have been diagnosed with autoimmune disease has just gone off the scale. And it's because of the environment. Now, the jury is out here, and I say that because in order for medicine to catch up, research takes years and years and years. So there's lots of anecdotal evidence that suggests in the gut is key in autoimmune disease. The research is lacking, but it will come, but there will be a lag until it does actually arrive. But about 2,000 years ago, there was a bloke called Hippocrates, and he's actually referred to the father as medicine. And he made quite an outlandish quote at the time, which was that all disease starts in the gut. And only now we're starting to realise that he was right. And this is why. So we've mentioned before, talking about Digestion Plus, how integral gut health is to every body system that we have. If you imagine you've got all the toxins and the key 4 areas of inflammation in the gut are gluten, dairy, sugar, and caffeine. But caffeine tends to be because of the acidic effect. I'm not going to go into that tonight. But they're your biggies. And if you imagine over time, it disrupts the bacterial balance. So you get more bad bacteria, so the good bacteria can't do their job. But not only that, we've got a really delicate gut lining. And the gut, it's incredible. If you imagine you take a food and then through these tiny processes, you pull out the nutrition and you get rid of the waste. And we're talking about on the cell level here. And it literally is like gated junctions. They're called gap junctions. So if you imagine you've got loads of cells all lined up, there's a little space in between and it's got a gate on it. And that's like under really tightly controlled chemical reactions that either allow the gate to open and let the nutrients in, or the gate to close to stop the toxin coming in. Now, when that really delicate gut lining is then actually damaged, those junctions don't work properly, and so they allow toxins to go in. And when parts that or particles that get in your body that aren't meant to be in your body, then starts an immune response. Now, our immune response is so specific and so reactive, it's unbelievable. You know, if you think about any time, even down to a bee sting, you know, the reaction of a bee sting is not the bee sting per se, it's our body protecting itself, or that inflammation, the itch and the soreness, that's your body doing that, not the bee sting itself. That's our body's protective mechanism. Even down to during pregnancy, our body can't run the risk of rejecting the baby, which is not part of us. And so it dampens down the immune system quite specifically to protect the baby for those 9 months. So, you know, it's so highly developed. You just think, what has gone wrong that the body one day decides to attack itself? And it is this cumulative damage, this chronic inflammation that is starting in the gut to the point that the body doesn't know what it's doing, and it's attacking itself. Now, where does the 30 days come into this? Well, I think we've got to be really careful because we can't say that 30 days can cure autoimmune disease. You know, we cannot be making medical recommendations here, and there isn't proof that that can happen. But certainly in my opinion, I feel that, and by the example I've given you, in order for an autoimmune disease to develop, there's got to be a toxic environment. If we can redress the balance and improve that toxic environment, then theoretically the autoimmune issue can improve. But not only that, it can potentially stop further autoimmune disease developing. And it's well-known fact that when you've got one, you are then predisposed to further. So you often hear of people with multiple autoimmune diseases that have developed over years. And so if you can halt the process, and for all the reasons that we've mentioned tonight, I believe that the 30 days certainly can contribute to halting that process, because it is generating a healthy, non-toxic environment. Then we should be able to minimise that risk of further autoimmune disease developing. So that's sort of in a nutshell autoimmune disease. And then finally, I wanted to mention pregnancy. Now, the reason that I say this is our 30 days is incredible. And you've got to imagine that the majority, I think that's probably fair to say, the majority of people have got a really poor diet. And I've looked after a lot of pregnant women. And it fascinates me on how little nutrition people can actually survive on, but not only that, can actually grow a baby on. Just shows how amazing we are as human beings. But we've got to show some caution in pregnancy. Now, with all of our Arbonne products, there's a disclaimer everywhere that you always seek medical advice. And certainly my take on that is, yes, you should. And I'm talking outside of pregnancy here, but it's all relative. So if people living off McDonald's, then having 30 days is just a no-brainer, no matter what, because they will go from having no nutrition, just living off trans fats and carbohydrates, to a highly nutritious diet. But there's an exception to that, and that is pregnancy. Now, I'm not saying don't use the 30 days, but I'm saying use with caution. And the reason for that is vitamin A. Now, vitamin A is all the vitamins is actually quite easy to get in your diet because it's in everything. It's in meat, fish, dairy, eggs, and any of your fruit and veg that are highly coloured. You know, anything that's green, red, yellow will have some sort of vitamin A in it. So it's actually quite easy to get it even if you've got quite a poor diet. Now, vitamin A is really important in your diet, but you've got to be very cautious in pregnancy, because vitamin A in the first trimester, which is the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, which you have to imagine the vast majority of people don't even know they're pregnant until they're 8 weeks in. So already most of the baby's being formed. And during that time, vitamin A can be toxic to the growing baby, in the sense that it can actually damage the neural tube. So it can cause spina bifida. So, and that is the reason why pregnant women are advised not to have anything with liver, because liver's got high vitamin A. The problem that I've got is that the maximum amount of vitamin A recommended in pregnancy, which is only this first trimester, but nonetheless it gets too complicated, so we need to say pregnancy in itself, is 770 micrograms. Our meal replacement shake per serving has 300 micrograms. Now, if you're recommending a pregnant woman has those twice a day, which is amazing on every other front, it takes them up to 600 micrograms. Now, you can imagine if they've then got dietary source of vitamin A within their diet, quite easily you can tip them over. Now, this is all theoretical, and certainly the cases of spina bifida tended to have been with synthetic vitamin A supplements, and obviously ours aren't synthetic. The supplements that we have are all botanical, but nonetheless that cannot be ignored. And so if you've got somebody who is pregnant or planning on getting pregnant, then I really feel that you need to obviously give them all the information, but make it clear that there is vitamin A, and for them to seek their own advice. But I think we would be doing people a poor service not to do that, because even the likes of your prenatal vitamins don't have vitamin A in for that reason. And so that is my only word of caution. The only other thing I probably should mention is the fizz sticks. Now, I live on fizz sticks, but they've got caffeine in. It's only equivalent to about half a cup of coffee, but there's increasing research to back up that you probably shouldn't be having caffeine during pregnancy. And not only that, there's also other stimulants such as ginseng. And basically, if you stimulate mum, you stimulate baby. And so that's the other side of it that you need to be cautious of. So I'm not saying absolutely no, but it's all about informed choice here. And mum needs to know that there is vitamin A and there is caffeine in the fizz sticks. And then it's up to her to then obviously make those choices. So I hope that's clear. The final thing is literally, I'm pretty much going to read this because I've been asked this quite a few times. And obviously in the 30 days, as in general, you know, we advocate the use of organic fruit and vegetables to try and, again, reduce the toxic load where people can manage. But as a company, we are not organic. And this is why. So Dr. Peter Travis has explained that an organic certificate does not guarantee that things are pesticide free or that they're a product of quality, but Arbonne testing does. So organic labels only apply to botanical ingredients. There is no organic certificate for minerals, vitamins, coenzyme Q10, ALA, etc. An organic certification refers to the crop growing process prohibiting fertilizers, pesticides, petrochemicals and dyes. Some ingredients aren't even available with an organic certification. An example of that is wild plants that we often use in Arbonne because they're sustainable. And the example he gives is actually eucalyptus that is grown in Australia. Organic does not guarantee purity or safety because there's a water runoff. So you can have a field that is organic right next to a field that is not organic. And depending on where the wind blows and where the rain runs, you can get cross-contamination. And you can't ever determine if that's the case or not. So what Arbonne does is it recognises that the farming process cannot guarantee if there's cross-contamination or not. And so Arbonne tests the raw materials to ensure it meets our high standard, regardless of if the ingredient is organic or not. And he uses greens as a perfect example. So there's 37 different fruits and vegetables in greens, and every single ingredient is tested as an individual raw material for its purity and also for its pesticide residue. But then even more than that, once it's been cold pressed, it's then retested. So it's actually tested twice to make sure there's no pesticide residue. So your finished product has been tested twice. Getting organic certification means that every single ingredient needs to have that organic certificate. It's lengthy, it's costly, and for all those reasons, it doesn't mean anything. It can be organic, but could still be dense with pesticide residue. So Arbonne chooses not to go down that route, but make sure that our testing is far superior than any organic certificate will ever give us. And for me, that is really important, and explaining to people why we're not registered as organic. So I hope that is useful. I could talk all night. I absolutely love it. And the more I learn, the more I'm just like blown away by Arbonne. So feel free to ask any questions. I don't know how long I've been talking for, but hopefully not too long.
Julie.
So.
That was amazing. We're like this. I don't think there's anyone on this call who isn't blown away. I've learned more from you than I have from a lot of trainings over the last months, maybe even a year. Like literally there was so much in-depth knowledge that I didn't even like, that we don't get on some SoundClouds and stuff as well. So where have you gone, Julie? Your computer's off. Where's she gone? While we're waiting for you to come back, Julie, everyone's saying amazing training, just incredible, absolutely fantastic. Everybody can listen all night to you. I've been waiting for Julie to train us for a long time, but she's a single mom with 3 little girls, jumping, bouncing beans. And for her to get the time to say she could train, she's going to do it last week, but she just couldn't. So we are so honoured. Do you give your children fizz sticks? I'm thinking probably not, but again, I'm not the expert. We do need, a written question answer from this call. I actually would like Julie to train in my place in my Next Nation Zoom. I think there's so much incredible information here tonight. Incredible. Julie, where's she gone? Come back. They've taken her away. She's given us too much.
I just wanted to say something quickly about the comment about do you give your children fizz sticks. So I don't actively give my son fizz sticks per se, but like if I'm out on the go and I've got the big Arbonne bottle and I prefer it more diluted anyway. I don't mind him having the odd sip. So I wouldn't, and that's what I say to parents, that it's a product aimed at adults. But I guess if you're comparing it to, fruit shoots and other things like that. And also if I'm out and I'm caught short and he needs something to drink, I'd rather he drank that than kind of was thirsty. But I don't give it to him as that's the drink I give him daily, because he's 4, so it's not really appropriate for him. But I feel that it's better than some things out there. So that's my thought on fizz sticks for kids.
Thank you, Marie-Louise. And he's got so much energy, Jensen. Anyway, he's bouncing around all the time like a young boy should be, right? Thank you for that, says Maritza. I know that Julie, she will be back on hopefully soon, but we're going to move on. Julie, I just want to say, when you do come back on the recording, that was absolutely incredible. And especially the grams on knowing about the vitamin A, that was really great for me. And this, Ali's saying the ginseng and fizz sticks as well, all the stimulants, isn't it, really? But amazing. I normally say my answer when people say about organic, why are we not organic? And my definition, I've used it since DOT, is that there's no legal definition to the word organic. But that's what I've said in a general sweeping statement, because but now Julie's actually said the fact that there could be the wind, and there's no farming that says if one field and the cross, and the cross kind of like when she said about, what did she say exactly, where the wind can go? So it's cross, I can't think of the word right now. Anyway, she's back. Julie's back. We lost you. You're on mute. Where did the aliens take you?
Sorry, my battery died.
Well, it was perfect timing. I was just saying, Julie, that was absolutely incredible. Like, we learned so much. We are all in awe. And I definitely would love you to get on a nation training.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Would love that, because I think many people, I know you've got so much, so much to share with us. That was amazing. So thank you so much, Julie, my lovely.
Thank you.
Okay, so meanwhile, I'm going to now, our next trainer is her sponsor, the amazing district manager, Joanna Parks, who's sat there. And Joanna, you are off mute, so hey.
Hey.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, that's going to be an extremely hard to follow.
I love it. You're going to be amazing. So the dynamic duo. So Joanne and I are doing a kind of question answer just on products. So I really know Julie, being sort of so much into the 30 days of nutrition. So I thought we'd go over the other side of Arbonne. So you tend to find, when we were in Maui this year, they were training on the fact that a lot of people, they want you to build your businesses to be, sort of like, if you're into nutrition, great, and you've got a strong nutrition business, but don't sort of like, you can build up your skincare. So the more duality and the more you've got your business covering other areas, the more ability to reach to people for different things. And it's not about, let's say your skincare is there and your nutrition, let's say you turn over a lot more nutrition sales than the skincare. You don't want to drop your nutrition down to the skincare. You want to get your skincare up to the nutrition. Okay, so more varied, flexible business gives you a more varied, flexible paycheck, so to speak. Tapping into other products. So Joanne is a beautician. She has her own salon at home, and just going to talk about, she absolutely endorses all the products. But for you, Joanne, like, what would you say is your favorite line and why, and the most popular that you maybe use in the salon and people like and people come back again and again? What do they get hooked on?
For me, I think I always try and hook them on the Genius pads, because that's, especially if they're maybe hooked into another brand, the Genius pads are a really great standalone product. That you don't have to, if someone came for a treatment and they're already using, say, Dermalogica, and they don't want to invest in a new brand straight away, something like the Genius pads, absolutely great because it's standalone. Introduce it in, obviously great for anti-aging, resurfacing the face, etc. But also, if, say, there's any scarring on the body, as long as there's blood supply, then, as we know, those Genius pads are great for that, along with the skin condition oil that's not available at the moment, and the Intelligence Rejuvenating Cream. So so I would always, I find the Genius pads, that's a real standalone and really good to cross-sell, especially if someone's already established with a brand.
Okay, thank you. That's great. And they are Genius, like they said. I know when they first launched the Genius pads, it was something like the sales in the first month was you could put a pad and line it from London and in a straight line all the way past Birmingham. It was incredible. The world's first alcohol-free retinoid vitamin A out there. So so you would definitely, like, the Genius pads would be one. Have you had any sort of
Yes.
Because obviously, I'm going to ask. The Genius pads can be very powerful, as Mother Nature is. Have you had anything you can share with us to give us words of advice, with the redness or people, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's got sensitive skin, I would be really, really careful, because if they're just coming for a facial, then just one application wouldn't really show up. So if they told me that they did have sensitive skin, then and they wanted to use the product, I would actually get them to try it for a few days, because it would show up within a few days, because you really don't want them investing in a box and it all going wrong. I know we do have the 45-day money back guarantee, but still, you just don't want to get into that, I don't think.
Sure. And there's a great video, I can put it onto the question answer group, about a woman in Australia for a whole year. Why would she do this? But she did one hand with the Genius and she didn't do the other hand. And literally the hand she hasn't done is old and wrinkly and crappy. And there's loads of, what are they called? Stains on hands.
I watched that one recently.
Brown spots.
Because I sent the YouTube video to someone who does beauty therapy, just to show her how powerful the Genius pads are. And so I was rewatching it. It's only like 3 minutes long. If you go onto YouTube and you just search Arbonne.
Can you put it on the group, Marie-Louise?
Yeah.
Cool.
But what she was doing was that she was doing a face and then just using the excess on there, and then after a few months she was noticing a difference, and she just thought it'd be a really powerful testimonial to continue doing it for a year. And it is amazing the difference that it does. It's something that I tell like people who are trying the products, that you may not see an instant change when you're like doing a facial demo at a party or something, that you've got to keep using it. The more you use it, the better.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Marie-Louise. Okay, so Joanne, what's your favourite line then? So we've got the Genius. So what would you say then, moving on to, I mean, we've got the new, like the young RE9 now, but you've seen how the RE9 has changed over the years. Favourite products of the RE9 and why? Why would you highlight that for someone?
I think just because of the the clinical results within the 24 hours, it's La Prairie quality, but at Clarine's prices, so we've just got that edge. It's all clean, obviously the results speak for themselves. And obviously we just need a tiny amount. It lasts forever, which isn't good for sales, but it's obviously great for the consumer. And even people that maybe need to start on the Calm range, I would always say, you might have sensitive skin now, but let's calm it down with the Calm range. And, before you know it, you can probably get on to some of the RE9, if not all of it, because obviously anyone over 25 really should be on that range, because of its obviously anti-aging, the collagen, etc., all those benefits to the face. Mm-hmm. And going back to the Genius pads, whenever I show anybody, it's obviously always on your face, obviously your neck, whatever you do to your face, you do to your neck and decollete area, but also I would always do it on the backs of my hands. And if there's any excess, then it would be on a part of my body that I'm not happy with. So, you know, and obviously only one because they're so powerful, but keep using it until it's completely dry.
So are we saying stretch marks?
Yeah, absolutely, stretch marks. Yeah.
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 Even the ones that
any scar. Well, if there's any scarring, as long as there's blood supply to the still to the scarring, then it will have a great effect. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. So any other?
How do you know if it's still got blood supply to that scar?
So it would. So like say, I know that I've got some stretch marks that are, say, white from having the children. They're like gone. Can't revive those. So we just if it's, you know, I'm not quite sure how long, but you would probably know, you know, if it's dead or can be revived, if that sort of makes sense. Maybe Julie can
Basically, anything that's
come in
pink.
there.
If it's pink,
Yeah.
once your stretch marks are silvery, then you're past the point of no return.
Yeah, right,
and the same with a scar. Eventually a scar will become a white line, which that's not going to change. When a scar's fresh and it's pink, then that's got an active blood supply.
Thank you. And they're not, the medals of honor is our stretch marks for our children.
They absolutely are. To be embraced.
All right, that's what my mom told me, and I'm sticking to that.
Yeah, they are. Tiger stripe.
I love it. Right, we're coming up to the end. We have 3 minutes left. Thank you, Joanna. I know that was really short at the end. But again, thank you so much, because you are an expert when it comes to all the beauty side of life. Hope you guys have really enjoyed that. My notes are incredible. I was even drawing the gates that you were talking about, so I was like, oh yes, gate open to allow nutrients, gate closed to keep toxins out. I was like getting all into this. I'll tell you, copious notes, Julie, copious and copious and copious. I loved it. Thank you so much for everybody coming on tonight. I hope you found value, and I'm sure you did. And this is why get on these Zoom calls, guys. It's not the same going back to recording, because it doesn't mean as much. You know, you've taken time out your busy night. Really appreciate that, to bring more value to the marketplace. And that's what we're doing in Arbonne. We're learning. It blows me away how much we know as Arbonne consultants. Like, we really do know our stuff. And if we don't know, we get on these Zoom calls, we take notes, and then we do know. Or if we don't know, we say, I'll get back to you, because somebody will know. And the WhatsApp group as well, I always see loads of people commenting that 24/7. Judy, you're on there a lot, you know much about, you know, like coming back as well, and really, really appreciate that. So thank you, you guys. See you 9 p.m. Zoom is happening now. So log on to that and get your fuel tank pumped up tonight with more information and knowledge to help many more people out in the world. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Julie. Thank you, Joanne.